Arthur Freeman, human diplomat, stood before the Galactic Council as they howled with laughter at his inheritance of three notoriously ugly Resian princesses. The chamber, a vast amphitheater of gleaming metal and pulsing holograms, echoed with the cacophony of alien mirth. Hundreds of representatives from across the galaxy pointed, clicked, and gurgled in amusement at the humans' predicament. The council's leader, a stern Risian named Corvus, raised a feathered appendage for silence. His avian features, sharp and predatory, contrasted sharply with Arthur's smooth human skin. As the laughter subsided, Corvus spoke in a clipped bird-like tone. "Arthur Freeman of Earth, you stand here to accept an unprecedented inheritance. The late Risian king has bequeathed to you his three daughters, along with all the responsibilities and privileges therein." Arthur nodded, his face a mask of determination despite the beads of sweat forming on his brow. He knew the stakes. Earth's newly gained seat on the Galactic Council hung in the balance. The ultimatum was clear: successfully integrate the princesses into human society within one standard galactic year, or lose Earth's hard-won position in galactic affairs. Corvus continued, his words carrying the weight of galactic law. This decision was made to forge stronger ties between humans and Risians, and to secure advantageous political alliances for the Risian kingdom. A Zorblaxian representative, a mass of writhing tentacles, interjected with a gurgling laugh. How can a human possibly integrate Risian royalty? They're as compatible as a Flurbian and a black hole. More laughter rippled through the chamber. Arthur stood firm, his hands clenched at his sides. He understood the challenge before him. Risians, with their avian features and complex mating rituals, were biologically and culturally distinct from humans. The princesses, notorious for their unappealing appearance by Risian standards, would face even greater challenges on Earth. Corvus silenced the chamber once more. "Arthur Freeman, do you accept this inheritance and the conditions set forth?" Arthur took a deep breath. The fate of Earth's galactic standing rested on his shoulders. He spoke, his voice steady and clear. "I accept." A murmur of surprise rippled through the assembled aliens. Corvus nodded, his sharp beak clicking in acknowledgement. He gestured to a nearby aide who approached Arthur with a stack of glowing hollow documents. "These are the legal documents confirming your newfound responsibility," Corvus explained. "Sign them, and your inheritance will be complete." Arthur took the documents, his hands steady as he pressed his thumb to each glowing surface. With each signature, he felt the weight of his task grow heavier. The future of Earth's influence in the galaxy now depended on his ability to bridge an interstellar cultural divide. As Arthur completed the final signature, Corvus addressed the council once more. "The inheritance is confirmed. Arthur Freeman will now be escorted to meet his daughters." The chamber erupted in a final burst of laughter as Arthur was led away by a pair of Risian guards. Their wings rustled as they guided him through winding corridors of the massive space station that housed the Galactic Council. Arthur's mind raced. How would he explain this to Earth's government? How could he possibly integrate three alien princesses into human society? And most pressing of all, what would he find when he met these notorious daughters for the first time? As they approached a sealed door, Arthur steeled himself. Whatever lay beyond, he was now responsible for it. The fate of Earth's galactic future depended on his success. The door slid open, revealing his inheritance and the challenge that would define his life for the coming year. The door slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a chamber that took Arthur's breath away. Lavish Risian decor adorned every surface, with intricate avian motifs carved into the metallic walls and woven into plush fabrics. Holographic displays shimmered with scenes of alien landscapes, casting a soft, ethereal glow throughout the room. Arthur stepped inside, his heart pounding. He had steeled himself for the worst, expecting to face three grotesque creatures that would test his diplomatic skills to their limits. Instead, what he saw left him momentarily stunned. Before him stood three of the most captivating beings he had ever laid eyes on. Their feathers shimmered with iridescent hues that seemed to dance in the light. Graceful beaks curved elegantly, framing piercing eyes that regarded him with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. The tallest of the three stepped forward, her feathers a cascade of deep purples and blues. I am Zara, she said, her voice a melodious trill. She gestured to her sisters. This is Lyra, and this is Vela. We are your inheritance. Arthur blinked, realizing he had been staring. He quickly attempted to compose himself, recalling the complex Rizian greeting ritual he had hastily memorized during his journey to the Galactic Council. Greetings, honored daughters, he began, raising his arms in what he hoped was the correct position. I am Arthur Freeman of Earth, and I... His elbow caught the edge of a nearby statue, sending it teetering. Arthur lunged to catch it, his feet tangling in the ornate rug beneath him. He stumbled, arms windmilling, and barely managed to right both himself and the statue. A series of musical chirps filled the air. It took Arthur a moment to realize the princesses were laughing. Cheeks burning, he straightened his diplomatic attire. As I was saying, he continued, trying to salvage some dignity, I'm here to be your guardian, I suppose. The laughter ceased, replaced by looks of confusion. Guardian? Lyra asked, her head tilting to one side. Her feathers were a striking combination of emerald and gold. What is this concept? Arthur frowned, searching for the right words. It's like a protector, a caretaker, someone responsible for your well-being. Vela, her plumage a soft silver and rose, trilled something in rapid Rizian. Zara responded, and soon all three were engaged in a heated discussion that left Arthur completely lost. I'm sorry, he interrupted, but I don't understand. Is there a problem? Zara turned back to him. We are trying to comprehend this guardian role. In Rizian culture, adult females do not require protection or care from males outside of mating bonds. Arthur felt a headache forming behind his eyes. Right, of course. Well, it's more complicated than that. You see, I'm supposed to help integrate you into human society on Earth. Earth? Vela chirped, her eyes widening. The water world? Water? Oh no, Earth has plenty of land. It's where humans come from. It's quite different from Rizia, but I'm sure you'll... You intend to take us from our home? Lyra interjected, her feathers filled. Arthur raised his hands placatingly. Only temporarily. It's part of a cultural exchange program to strengthen ties between our species. The princesses exchanged wary glances. Arthur, sensing the need to ease the tension, decided to demonstrate a basic human custom. Here, he said, extending his hand. This is how humans greet each other. It's called a handshake. Zara stared at his outstretched hand, her eyes widening in shock. She took a step back, bumping into her sisters. What are you doing? She squawked. Arthur froze, his hand still extended. It's just a handshake. You grasp my hand and... Grasp? Lyra exclaimed. Is this some sort of human mating ritual? What? No! Arthur sputtered, quickly withdrawing his hand. It's just a greeting. There's nothing sexual about it. The room erupted into a cacophony of alarmed trills and squawks. Arthur found himself backing away, trying to explain over the din, but his words only seemed to increase the princess's distress. The chamber door slid open once more, revealing Corvus. The Rizian leader took in the scene, Arthur red-faced and flustered, the princesses in various states of agitation, and let out a long, weary sigh. I see we have encountered some cultural difficulties, Corvus said dryly. Arthur ran a hand through his hair. You could say that. Corvus nodded, then gestured to someone in the corridor. A new Rizian entered the room, her feathers a striking pattern of black and silver. This is Nyx, Corvus introduced. She is a diplomat with extensive experience in interspecies relations. She will serve as a cultural liaison to assist you in your mission. Nyx bowed her head slightly to Arthur, then turned to the princesses and spoke in soothing Rizian tones. The atmosphere in the room noticeably relaxed. As Nyx continued to explain things to the princesses, Corvus pulled Arthur aside. There is something you should understand, the Rizian leader said quietly. What you perceive as beauty in the princesses is considered quite the opposite in our culture. Their unusual coloration is seen as a flaw among Rizians. Arthur's brow furrowed. But they're stunning. By human standards, perhaps, this discrepancy may cause complications, as you attempt to integrate them into your society. Before Arthur could respond, his communication device buzzed insistently. He glanced at it and felt his stomach drop. It was an urgent message from Earth's government, demanding an immediate explanation of the situation. Arthur looked around the room, at the alien princesses who were now his responsibility, at the cultural liaison who would have to bridge an interstellar divide, at the region leader who had set this whole thing in motion. The weight of his task and the potential consequences for humanity's place in the galactic community settled heavily on his shoulders. "Well," he said more to himself than anyone else, "I suppose we'd better get going." As they boarded the sleek interstellar vessel bound for Earth, Arthur gazed out at the vast expanse of space. Stars streaked by as the ship accelerated, carrying him and his unusual companions towards an uncertain future. Behind him, he could hear Nyx attempting to explain the concept of a pickle to the increasingly bewildered princesses. Arthur sighed. It was going to be a long journey, in more ways than one. Arthur's contemplation of the long journey ahead was interrupted as the ship lurched, decelerating rapidly. He steadied himself against a nearby bulkhead, watching as Earth grew larger in the view screen. "We're beginning our descent," announced the ship's AI in a cool metallic voice. "Please secure all loose items and prepare for atmospheric entry." Arthur turned to find Nyx herding the princesses into their designated seats. Zara's purple feathers were ruffled, her eyes wide with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. Lyra's emerald plumage seemed to shimmer more intensely, while Vela's silver feathers had taken on a pale, almost translucent quality. "Remember," Nyx trilled softly to the sisters, "Earth's gravity will feel much stronger than what you're accustomed to. Move slowly at first." The ship shuddered as it pierced the atmosphere, flames licking at the heat shields. Arthur gripped his chairs, his fist clenched. He'd made this journey countless times, but never with such precious and precarious cargo. As they broke through the cloud cover, a vast expanse of golden sand stretched out below them. The ship touched down with a gentle thump on a nondescript landing pad, kicking up swirls of dust that obscured the view momentarily. "Welcome to Earth," Arthur said, forcing a smile as he unbuckled his harness. "Specifically, welcome to, well, the middle of nowhere, it seems." He helped the princesses to their feet, noting how they struggled against Earth's gravity. Zara stumbled, catching herself on Arthur's arm. Her feathers were surprisingly soft against his skin. "It's so heavy," she gasped, her musical voice strained. "You'll adjust," Nyx assured her, though Arthur detected a note of uncertainty in the liaison's tone. As the ship's ramp lowered, a blast of hot, dry air rushed in. Arthur squinted against the brightness, making out a group of figures standing at attention near a cluster of military vehicles. "Remember," he said quietly to the princesses, "first impressions are crucial. Just be yourselves, but maybe tone down any screeching or talon displaying for now." They descended the ramp, the princesses moving with uncharacteristic awkwardness. A tall, broad-shouldered man with close-cropped gray hair stepped forward, his face a mask of professional neutrality. "Mr. Freeman," he said, extending his hand. "General Marcus Steele, head of Earth's Interstellar Relations Department. Welcome back." Arthur shook the general's hand, noting the man's firm grip. "Thank you, General. May I present Princess Zara, Princess Lyra, and Princess Vela of Rissia." The assembled humans fell silent, staring at the avian royalty with undisguised awe. The princesses, for their part, seemed equally fascinated by the humans, their heads tilting this way and that as they took in the unfamiliar forms. General Steele cleared his throat. "Ladies, welcome to Earth. We've prepared accommodations for you, and—" "Mr. Freeman," a crisp voice interrupted. A woman in a lab coat approached, her eyes gleaming with awe-inspiring excitement. "Dr. Elena Chen, Xenobiology Department. We'd like to conduct some preliminary health screenings, if that's all right." Before Arthur could respond, a team of white-coated scientists descended upon the princesses, brandishing an array of unfamiliar devices. Lyra let out a startled chirp as one scientist attempted to take a feather sample. "Wait, please," Arthur began, but his words were drowned out by a piercing screech from Zara. The sound reverberated across the tarmac, causing nearby windows to shatter in a shower of glass. In the ensuing chaos, Arthur found himself pulled aside by General Steele. "Freeman," the general hissed, "what the hell is going on? Do you have any idea what you've brought to our planet?" Arthur ran a hand through his hair, watching as Nyx attempted to calm the agitated princesses. "General, I understand your concerns, but this is a delicate situation. These aren't just any aliens, they're royalty. We need to treat them with respect and care." Steele's mind focused. Respect and care are all well and good, but Earth's security comes first. We need to understand what we're dealing with. "I agree," Arthur nodded, "but not like this. Let me handle it. I suggest we move them to their quarters and allow them to settle in. We can conduct any necessary examinations later with their consent and cooperation." The general considered for a moment, then nodded curtly. "Fine, but I want daily reports on their activities and progress. The compound is ready. Follow me." As they approached a sleek modern building set apart from the rest of the base, Arthur couldn't help but notice the discreet but obvious security measures. Cameras tracked their movement, and he spotted several concealed weapon emplacements. Inside, the decor was a jarring mix of luxury and utility. Plush furnishings and ornate artwork clashed with reinforced doors, and what Arthur strongly suspected were one-way mirrors. "This will be your home for the foreseeable future," General Steele announced, gesturing around the spacious common area. "You'll find private quarters for each of you, as well as shared spaces for whatever it is you do." The princesses explored the room cautiously, their talons clicking softly on the polished floor. Vela approached a large window, pressing her beak against the glass as she gazed out at the alien landscape. "It's so dry," she murmured. "Where are the sky forests?" Arthur moved to her side. "Earth is very different from Rhesia," he explained gently. "We have forests, but not here in the desert. I promise I'll show you more of our world soon." As night fell, Arthur found himself facing an unexpected challenge. While the humans prepared for sleep, the nocturnal Rhesians were becoming more active. Zara's feathers began to glow with a soft purple light, while Lyra and Vela's plumage shimmered with their own bioluminescence. "Is it customary for humans to retreat when the sun sets?" Lyra asked, her head tilted in curiosity. Arthur stifled a yawn. "Most humans sleep at night," he explained. "But don't worry, we'll find ways to accommodate your schedule." As he struggled to keep his eyes open, Arthur noticed a red light blinking on one of the room's hidden cameras. Somewhere, he knew, scientists were observing their every move, taking copious notes on Rhesian behavior. Just as he was considering how to entertain his energetic charges, his comm device buzzed. The message made his blood run cold. "Urgent communication from Galactic Council. Integration progress unsatisfactory. Remind you of stakes involved. Earth's galactic standing in jeopardy. Improve situation immediately or face consequences." Arthur looked up at the glowing princesses, then back at the message. The weight of his responsibility pressed down on him, heavier than Earth's gravity on Rhesian wings. He knew he had to act fast, but as Vela began to trill a haunting Rhesian melody, he allowed himself a moment to marvel at the strange beauty of the scene. Tomorrow, he decided, he would propose his cultural exchange program to General Steele. It was a risk, but with Earth's future in the balance, it was a risk he had to take. For now, though, he settled in for a long night of alien education, wondering what new challenges the dawn would bring. For now, though, he settled in for a long night of alien education, wondering what new challenges the dawn would bring. As the sun rose over the desert compound, Arthur's mind was already racing with plans. He'd spent the night fielding questions from the princesses about everything, from human biology to the intricacies of Earth's ecosystems. Now, as he watched the first rays of sunlight glint off Vela's silver feathers, he knew it was time to take action. "General Steele," Arthur said, his voice firm as he stood before the imposing military leader later that morning. "I have a proposal that I believe will address our current predicament." The general's eyes narrowed. "I'm listening, Freeman." Arthur laid out his plan for a cultural exchange program, emphasizing the potential benefits for Earth's standing in the galactic community. As he spoke, he could see the general's expression shifting from skepticism to cautious interest. It's a risk, Steele admitted, but given the stakes, it might be our best option. I'll present it to the council immediately. Within days, Earth's government had approved the proposal. Arthur wasted no time in setting the plan in motion, coordinating with Dr. Elena Rodriguez to lead the human delegation to Rizia while he focused on the princess's integration on Earth. The first public event was set for the following week at Evergreen University. As Arthur escorted the princesses into the grand lecture hall, he could feel the tension in the air. Students and faculty alike stared openly, a mix of curiosity and apprehension on their faces. Professor Jameson, a renowned historian, began his lecture on human civilization. Arthur watched as Zara leaned forward, her purple feathers catching the light. Suddenly, her wings shot up. "Excuse me, Professor," Zara's musical voice rang out. "You mentioned that humans have diverse forms of government. How do you reconcile these differences without resorting to dominance displays or ritual combat?" A hush fell over the auditorium. Professor Jameson blinked, then smiled. "An excellent question, Your Highness. In fact, human diplomatic processes have evolved to..." As the lecture continued, Arthur noticed the crowd's demeanor softening. The princess's intelligent questions and genuine interest seemed to be winning over even the most skeptical attendees. Emboldened by the success of the lecture, Arthur arranged for a visit to the National Gallery of Art the following day. As they entered the vast museum, Lyra's emerald feathers began to shimmer with excitement. "These are frozen moments?" she asked, gesturing to a series of landscape paintings. Arthur nodded. "In a way, yes. Human artists capture scenes or emotions on canvas using pigments." Lyra moved closer to an abstract expressionist piece, her head tilting this way and that. Without warning, her feathers began to pulse with light, creating swirling patterns that mimicked the painting's chaotic brushstrokes. Gasps of awe echoed through the gallery. Visitors pulled out their phones, capturing the impromptu light show. Arthur smiled, knowing that these images would soon spread across social media, showcasing the beauty and wonder of Rijan culture. As the integration program progressed, Arthur focused on introducing the princesses to human cuisine. He enlisted the help of Chef Maria Cortez, known for her innovative fusion cooking. "Today, we'll be exploring Earth's diverse flavors," Chef Cortez announced, unveiling a spread of dishes from around the world. Zara approached cautiously, using her beak to delicately sample a piece of sushi. Her feathers ruffled in surprise. "It's cold, and the textures are so varied." Vela, meanwhile, had discovered the joys of spicy food. "This sensation," she trilled, her silver feathers gleaming as she sampled a Thai curry. "It's like a symphony in my mouth." As the princesses explored human cuisine, Arthur received updates from Dr. Rodriguez on Rizia. The reports were mixed. While the human delegation was making progress in understanding Rizian culture, they were struggling with the physical demands of the alien world. "The gravity is taking its toll," Dr. Rodriguez reported via hologram, her face etched with fatigue. "And we're still trying to decipher the intricacies of their social hierarchy. It's challenging." Arthur nodded, understanding all too well the difficulties of cross-species communication. He was about to respond when an alert flashed across his comm device. General Steele's face appeared, his expression grim. "Freeman, we've got a situation. Anti-alien protests are spreading. If we don't turn public opinion around soon, the whole program could be in jeopardy." Arthur's mind raced. They needed a way to showcase the princess's unique abilities, something that would capture the public's imagination. An idea began to form. "General, I think I have a solution, but it's going to require some coordination and a lot of open airspace." Days later, Arthur stood on a specially constructed platform, surrounded by a sea of spectators and media drones. Above, the sky was clear and blue, perfect conditions for what he had planned. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, his voice carried by speakers across the vast open area, "today we have a special demonstration of Rizian flight capabilities." On cue, Zara, Lyra, and Vela stepped onto the platform. Their feathers began to shimmer and glow, creating a dazzling display of color. Then, with a powerful leap, they took to the sky. The crowd gasped as the princesses soared and swooped, their iridescent plumage catching the sunlight. They performed intricate aerial maneuvers, weaving complex patterns in the air that seemed to defy physics. As the princesses landed to thunderous applause, Arthur allowed himself a moment of hope. The public demonstration had been a success, but he knew they still had a long way to go. Later that evening, as he watched the princesses interact with a group of human diplomats at a formal dinner, Arthur noticed something intriguing. The Risians were beginning to adopt human mannerisms, blending them with their own customs in unexpected ways. Zara, attempting to greet a diplomat, began with a traditional Risian dance-like movement, only to finish with an awkward handshake. The human diplomat, caught off guard, stumbled through a clumsy bow in response. Arthur chuckled, but his amusement was short-lived. Across the room, he saw Vela's feathers beginning to glow intensely as she clinked glasses with a senior official. Her head was tilted in a way that Arthur recognized as a sign of Risian courtship interest. "Excuse me," Arthur said hurriedly, making his way across the room. He had a feeling things were about to get a lot more complicated. As he approached Vela, his comm device buzzed with an incoming transmission from Dr. Rodriguez. The message preview made his heart skip a beat. Urgent. Discovered crucial info about Risian mating practices, political implications. Contact immediately. Arthur took a deep breath, steeling himself for whatever new challenge awaited. The night was just getting started, and he had a feeling that the true test of Earth's interstellar diplomacy was only just beginning. Arthur's mind raced as he processed the urgent message from Dr. Rodriguez. He glanced back at Vela, her silver feathers pulsing with an intensity he now recognized as more than mere bioluminescence. Excusing himself from the nearby diplomats, he made his way to a quiet corner of the room and activated his comm device. Dr. Rodriguez's holographic image flickered to life, her expression a mix of excitement and concern. "Arthur, you won't believe what we've discovered about Risian mating practices. They're intrinsically linked to their political system in ways we never imagined." As she explained the complex web of multi-partner mating bonds that form the backbone of Risian alliances, Arthur felt a knot forming in his stomach. He watched the princesses across the room, their graceful movements now carrying new significance. "This changes everything," Arthur murmured. "Thank you, Elena. I need to act on this immediately." Ending the call, Arthur sought out General Steele, finding him deep in conversation with a group of Earth officials. "General, we need to talk. Now." Steele excused himself, following Arthur to a private alcove. As Arthur relayed Dr. Rodriguez's findings, the general's face grew increasingly grim. "Freeman, do you understand what this means for our integration efforts?" Steele asked, his voice low and tense. Arthur nodded. "We need to adapt, and fast. I have an idea, but it's unconventional." Over the next hour, Arthur outlined his plan for a series of cultural exchange events, culminating in a mock Risian political mating ceremony involving human participants. Steele listened intently, his expression unreadable. "It's risky," the general finally said, "but given our situation with the Galactic Council, we might not have a choice. I'll present it to the government immediately." Days later, Arthur found himself standing before a hastily assembled team of event planners, cultural experts, and government officials. The air was thick with tension as he explained the concept for the first event, a formal ball blending human and Risian courtship rituals. "We need to create an environment where both species can interact naturally," Arthur emphasized. "The key is to foster understanding while respecting the cultural norms of both humans and Risians." As preparations for the ball began, Arthur worked closely with Nyx to design special gowns for the princesses. The dresses would enhance their natural bioluminescence while incorporating elements of human formal wear. The night of the ball arrived, and the grand ballroom of the International Cultural Center buzzed with anticipation. Human dignitaries mingled with Risian representatives, their conversations a mix of curiosity and apprehension. Arthur stood near the entrance, his heart racing as he watched the princesses make their entrance. Zara, Lyra, and Vela glided into the room, their gowns shimmering with otherworldly light. The assembled crowd fell silent, awestruck by the display. As the evening progressed, Arthur noticed the humans' fascination with the princesses' light displays. He overheard snippets of conversation, realizing that many were misinterpreting the complex Rizian signals as mere decoration. His concerns were realized when he spotted Charles Harding, a prominent tech mogul, approaching Princess Zara. Harding's body language exuded confidence as he extended his hand, clearly intending to ask for a dance. Arthur moved quickly, but not fast enough. He watched in horror as Harding took Zara's wing, leading her to the dance floor. The princess's feathers began to pulse rapidly, a clear sign of Rizian acceptance that went unnoticed by the oblivious businessman. As they began to slow dance, Zara's movements became more intricate, her wings creating patterns of light that left the Rizian onlookers gasping. Arthur could see the shock and confusion spreading across the faces of the Rizian delegates. "Nix," Arthur hissed into his comm device. "We need to intervene, now." Together, they quickly organized an impromptu cultural briefing. Arthur took center stage, his voice calm but authoritative as he addressed the mixed crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, honored Rizian guests," he began, "I believe we have an opportunity here for a valuable cultural exchange. Allow me to explain the significance of what we're witnessing." As Arthur spoke, explaining the basics of human dance to the Rizians and the meaning behind Rizian light displays to the humans, he could see understanding dawning on faces throughout the room. The tension began to dissipate, replaced by a sense of curiosity and even excitement. Harding, realizing the implications of his actions, gracefully bowed to Zara and excused himself. The princess, in turn, performed a Rizian gesture of mutual understanding, her feathers now glowing with a softer, more neutral light. As the ball continued, Arthur's comm device buzzed with another message from Dr. Rodriguez. The team on Risia had made a breakthrough in understanding the link between Rizian mating practices and their political system. The implications were staggering. Arthur's mind raced as he read the report. The complex multi-partner mating bonds that formed Rizian political alliances were unlike anything in human society. He knew immediately that this information would require a complete reevaluation of their integration strategy. As the ball wound down, Arthur found himself in a hushed conversation with General Steele and several key government officials. The decision was unanimous. They needed to take drastic action to demonstrate Earth's commitment to understanding and adapting to Rizian culture. A mock Rizian political mating ceremony, Arthur proposed, his voice firm despite the audacity of the suggestion. With human participants, it's the only way to show we're serious about this integration. The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, Steele spoke. "It's unprecedented, Freeman, but so is this entire situation. Make it happen." As Arthur left the ballroom, his mind already racing with plans for this new, radical event, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing on the precipice of something monumental. The future of human-Rizian relations, and perhaps Earth's very standing in the galactic community, would hinge on the success of this ceremony. With a deep breath, Arthur stepped out into the cool night air. The real work was just beginning. The weeks leading up to the hybrid human-Rizian political mating ceremony were a whirlwind of preparation and anticipation. Arthur found himself at the center of a diplomatic storm, coordinating with teams of experts to ensure every detail was perfect. The specialized arena, a marvel of engineering, stood ready to simulate Rizian atmospheric conditions, its transparent dome allowing spectators to witness the event while maintaining the alien environment within. As dawn broke on the day of the ceremony, Arthur stood at the entrance of the arena, his heart pounding. He watched as the carefully selected human participants arrived, their faces a mix of excitement and trepidation. Each had been chosen for their diplomatic skills and open-mindedness, but Arthur knew that no amount of training could fully prepare them for what lay ahead. "Ready for this, Freeman?" General Steele's gruff voice came from behind him. Arthur turned, offering a tight smile. "As ready as we'll ever be, sir." The arena quickly filled with spectators, a sea of humans and Rizians alike. The air buzzed with nervous energy as the ceremony's start time approached. Arthur's gaze was drawn to the private viewing box where the Galactic Council observers sat, led by the impassive arbitrator Zan. Their presence added an extra layer of pressure to an already tense situation. A hush fell over the crowd as the Rizian nobles made their entrance. Grand Counselor Talon led the procession, his iridescent plumage shimmering with hues that spoke of his high rank. The princesses, Zara, Lyra, and Vela, followed, their feathers pulsing with anticipation as they took their positions as officiants. Arthur watched as the human participants donned their specially designed suits, marveling at the technology that would allow them to engage in the aerial aspects of the ceremony. As the humans took their places, he couldn't help but notice the stark contrast between their nervous movements and the graceful poise of the Rizians. The ceremony began with a series of intricate aerial maneuvers performed by the Rizian nobles. Arthur held his breath as the human participants took to the air, their movements clumsy in comparison. He winced as one participant narrowly avoided a collision, while another struggled to maintain altitude. "This isn't going well," Steele muttered, echoing Arthur's thoughts. Arthur nodded to Nyx, who quickly moved to provide guidance to the struggling humans. As she worked, Arthur's attention was drawn to one participant who seemed to be faring better than the others. James Carter, a charismatic diplomat, displayed an unexpected aptitude for the Rizian flight patterns. His movements, while not perfect, showed a natural grace that stood out among the other humans. Arthur watched, fascinated, as James's aerial dance caught the eye of Princess Lyra. The princess's feathers began to pulse with increasingly complex patterns, responding to James's movements. The unplanned interaction caused a ripple of murmurs through the crowd, and Arthur saw the Galactic Council observers leaning forward in their seats. "Sir," Arthur whispered to Steele, "I think we should let this play out. It could be the breakthrough we need." Steele nodded, his eyes never leaving the aerial display. As James and Lyra's impromptu duet continued, the other human participants struggled to keep pace with the increasingly complex rituals. Arthur winced as he saw several suffer minor injuries, their inexperience leading to small but noticeable disruptions in the ceremony. The situation reached a critical point when Grand Counselor Talon suddenly raised his wing, signaling for silence. The arena grew still as the imposing Rizian addressed James directly. "Human," Talon's voice boomed, "you have shown unexpected aptitude for our ways. I challenge you to complete the Zenith Flight, a traditional Rizian mating ritual reserved for our most elite." Gasps echoed through the arena. Arthur's mind raced, recognizing both the honor and the danger in this challenge. Failure could be seen as an insult to Rizian culture, potentially undoing all their hard work. Arthur quickly pulled James aside, speaking in urgent whispers. "This is unprecedented, James. It's risky, but it might be our only chance to make this work. Do you think you can do it?" James's face was pale, but his eyes shone with tenacity. "I'll give it everything I've got, sir." As James took to the air once more, the entire arena held its collective breath. Arthur watched, his heart in his throat, as James began the complex aerial patterns of the Zenith Flight. The human's movements were impressively graceful, but Arthur could see the strain on his face as he pushed himself to the limit. Princess Lyra watched intently, her feathers pulsing with what Arthur recognized as a mix of concern and admiration. As James neared the final stages of the flight, his movements became less precise, fatigue clearly setting in. Just as it seemed James would falter, Princess Lyra made a decision that would change everything. Breaking from her position, she took to the air, joining James in the final movements of the Zenith Flight. The crowd gasped at this unprecedented act of cooperation between human and Rizian. Together, James and Lyra completed the mating flight, landing gracefully before the assembled dignitaries. A hush fell over the arena as all eyes turned to Grand Counselor Talon, whose expression was unreadable. Arthur held his breath, acutely aware that the fate of human-Rizian relations now hung in the balance. He glanced at the Galactic Council observers, noting their intense interest in the unfolding drama. As Talon conferred with his fellow nobles, Arthur's mind raced with possibilities. This unexpected turn of events could reshape the entire landscape of interstellar diplomacy. Whatever the outcome, he knew that the next few moments would be crucial in determining the future of both species. The silence stretched on, tension building with each passing second. Arthur's gaze darted between James and Lyra, standing side by side, to Grand Counselor Talon, whose deliberations seemed to last an eternity. The future of Earth's place in the galactic community hung in the balance, all resting on the Rizian response to this unprecedented display of interspecies cooperation. Cooperation. The tension in the arena was palpable as Grand Counselor Talon's deliberations stretched on. Arthur's palms were slick with sweat, his eyes darting between the stoic Rizian leader and the human Rizian pair standing before him. James Carter's chest heaved with exertion, while Princess Lyra's feathers pulsed with a soft, almost anxious light. Finally, Talon's voice boomed across the arena, silencing the murmurs that had begun to ripple through the crowd. "We have witnessed something extraordinary today," he proclaimed, his piercing gaze sweeping across the assembled spectators. "The human, James Carter, has shown remarkable adaptability and skill in our most sacred ritual, and Princess Lyra's decision to join him demonstrates the potential for true cooperation between our species." A collective exhale seemed to sweep through the human delegation. Arthur felt his shoulders relax slightly, though he remained alert, knowing that this moment could still go either way. Talon continued, his voice carrying a hint of warmth that hadn't been there before. "I hereby declare this ceremony a success. The humans have proven their willingness to embrace our ways, and we Rizians must show equal openness to theirs." As excited whispers erupted among both humans and Rizians, Arthur saw his opportunity. He stepped forward, bowing deeply to Talon before speaking. "Grand Counselor, if I may," he began, his voice steady despite the gravity of what he was about to propose. "In the spirit of this newfound understanding, I suggest we take our cooperation a step further." Talon's head tilted slightly, a gesture Arthur had come to recognize as curiosity. "Speak, Arthur Freeman." "I propose a cultural immersion program," Arthur said, his words carefully chosen. "A select group of humans and Rizians, living together on Earth for an extended period. This would allow us to truly understand each other's cultures, customs, and biological needs. It would be a testament to our commitment to lasting peace and cooperation." A buzz of excitement swept through the arena. Arthur could see the human diplomats nodding approvingly, while the Rizian nobles conferred in hushed tones, their feathers flickering with rapid communication. Talon considered the proposal, his gaze intense. After what seemed like an eternity, he spoke. "Your suggestion is bold, Arthur Freeman. It carries great risk and great potential. We will need time to consider the details, but in principle, I agree to this proposal." Arthur's heart soared, but he maintained his composure. "Thank you, Grand Counselor. We are honored by your trust." As the ceremony concluded, Arthur found himself swept up in a whirlwind of activity. Congratulations poured in from human diplomats, while Rizian nobles approached with curious questions about the proposed immersion program. Amidst the chaos, he caught sight of James and Lyra, standing close together, their body language speaking volumes about the connection they had forged. In the days that followed, as news of the ceremony spread, Earth's reaction was far from unanimous. While many celebrated this leap forward in interstellar relations, others voiced concerns. Arthur found himself working tirelessly with General Steele to address the growing unrest among conservative groups who feared the alienization of human culture. "We're not losing our humanity," Arthur argued in a heated debate on global news. "We're expanding it. The galaxy is vast and we have so much to learn. This is our chance to grow, to evolve." Meanwhile, the plans for the immersion program moved forward at a breakneck pace. A compound was designed and constructed in record time, its architecture a blend of human and Rizian elements. Environmental controls were installed to simulate Rizian atmospheric conditions in certain areas, while others maintained Earth's natural state. As the program's start date approached, Arthur oversaw the selection of participants. 10 humans and 10 Rizians were chosen, each bringing unique skills and perspectives to the group. James Carter and Princess Lyra were among them, their inclusion both a symbol of the program's potential and a source of gossip in both human and Rizian circles. The day the program began, Arthur stood at the entrance of the compound, watching as the participants arrived. The humans looked nervous but excited, lugging suitcases filled with personal items. The Rizians glided in gracefully, their feathers shimmering with anticipation. "Welcome," Arthur addressed the group, to a new chapter in human-Risian relations. What happens here will shape the future of both our species. As the participants settled in, the challenges became immediately apparent. The first communal meal was a comedy of errors, with humans struggling to manipulate Risian utensils designed for talons, while Risians found Earth foods alternately fascinating and repulsive. One afternoon, in an attempt to introduce the Risians to Earth culture, the humans organized a basketball game. Arthur watched from the sidelines as the Risians took to the air, their powerful wings giving them a distinct advantage. However, their talons left deep gouges in the court, and more than one basketball was punctured by an errant claw. "Well," James Carter laughed, holding up a deflated ball, "I guess we'll need to rethink the equipment." These incidents, while sometimes frustrating, also led to moments of genuine connection. Arthur observed with satisfaction as humans and Risians worked together to modify the basketball game, creating a new sport that played to both species' strengths. However, not all challenges were so easily overcome. Several humans developed rashes from prolonged exposure to Risian feathers, while some Risians struggled with the higher oxygen content in Earth's atmosphere. Medical teams worked around the clock to develop treatments, their efforts leading to rapid advancements in xenobiology. As news of these developments spread, the compound became a magnet for scientists from around the world. Arthur found himself juggling diplomatic duties with managing the influx of researchers eager to study human-Risian interactions. One evening, as Arthur was reviewing security protocols with General Steele, an alarm blared through the compound. They rushed to the control room to find that a severe storm was approaching, threatening to overwhelm the facility's defenses. "We need to evacuate," Steele growled, reaching for the emergency protocols. "Wait," Arthur said, an idea forming. "This could be an opportunity. Let's see how they handle this together." As the storm raged outside, humans and Risians worked side by side to secure the compound. Risians used their superior strength to move heavy equipment, while humans' familiarity with Earth weather patterns helped predict the storm's movements. Arthur watched with pride as the two species, so different yet increasingly in sync, protected their shared home. The storm passed, leaving the compound battered but intact. As the participants gathered in the common area, exhausted but exhilarated, Arthur saw something that filled him with hope, genuine friendships forming across species lines. James and Lyra stood at the center of the group, their body language mirrored despite their physiological differences. Around them, humans and Risians clustered in mixed groups, excitedly recounting their experiences during the storm. As Arthur observed this scene, he knew that the immersion program had already exceeded his expectations, but he also understood that this was just the beginning. The real challenges and opportunities lay ahead, as they continued to navigate the complex dance of interspecies relations. With the program's halfway mark approaching, Arthur turned his attention to the next phase. The successes and setbacks they had experienced so far had laid a foundation, but the true test was yet to come. As he began to plan, Arthur couldn't shake the feeling that the coming months would reshape not just human-Risian relations, but humanity's place in the galactic order itself. As the human-Risian immersion program entered its final phase, Arthur Freeman found himself at the center of a whirlwind of activity. The compound buzzed with excitement as participants from both species continued to make remarkable progress in cross-cultural understanding. One crisp morning, Arthur received an urgent message from General Steele. "Freeman, we've got company," the general's gruff voice crackled through the comm. "A delegation from the Zorn Empire has just entered Earth's orbit. They're requesting an immediate meeting." Arthur's pulse quickened. The Zorn were known throughout the galaxy for their advanced technology and enigmatic nature. Their sudden interest in Earth could be a game-changer for humanity's position in the galactic community. As Arthur prepared for the meeting, another piece of news sent shockwaves through the compound. James Carter and Princess Lyra approached him, their body language a mix of nervousness and drive. "Arthur," James began, his voice steady despite the weight of his words, "Lyra and I have decided to form a permanent bond. We want to be the first human-Risian couple." Arthur's mind raced with the implications. This was unprecedented, a union that would forever alter the relationship between their species. "Are you certain about this?" he asked, studying their faces. Lyra's feathers pulsed with a soft, warm light. "We are," she replied, her voice melodious yet firm. "We understand the challenges, but we believe our bond can serve as a bridge between our peoples." Before Arthur could fully process this development, he was whisked away to meet the Zorn delegation. The sleek, silver-skinned aliens towered over their human hosts, their multifaceted eyes taking in every detail of the Earth facility. Ambassador Zix, the leader of the Zorn delegation, addressed Arthur with a voice that seemed to resonate on multiple frequencies. "We have observed your species' rapid advancement and your unique approach to interspecies relations. The Zorn Empire wishes to establish trade relations with Earth." As discussions progressed, Arthur saw an opportunity to leverage the Zorn's interest. He carefully broached the subject of James and Lyra's intended union, presenting it as a testament to humanity's adaptability and openness to galactic integration. The Zorn's reaction was one of fascination. Ambassador Zix leaned forward, multifaceted eyes glinting. "This is most intriguing. We propose a joint scientific venture. In exchange for studying the participants of your immersion program, we offer access to our advanced medical technology." Arthur recognized the potential benefits, but also the risks. "We would need assurances about the nature of your research and the safety of our participants," he countered, his diplomatic training coming to the fore. As negotiations with the Zorn continued, Earth's government made the bold decision to publicly support James and Lyra's union. The announcement triggered a firestorm of controversy. Conservative groups organized massive protests, their chants echoing through city streets. "Keep Earth human!" Arthur watched from his office window as a sea of protesters gathered outside the compound. Signs bearing slogans like "No Alien DNA" and "Protect Human Heritage" bobbed above the crowd. He sighed, knowing that the path ahead would be fraught with challenges. Inside the compound, the mood was tense but determined. James and Lyra became symbols of hope for many, their relationship a living embodiment of interspecies cooperation. However, as preparations for the Zorn-led research began, an alarming development threw everything into chaos. Dr. Elena Reyes, the lead human physician, burst into Arthur's office one morning, her face pale. "Mr. Freeman, we have a situation. Several human participants, including James, are showing unexpected physical changes." Arthur followed her to the medical bay, where he saw James undergoing a battery of tests. The young man's skin had taken on a subtle, shimmering quality, reminiscent of Rizian feathers. "It appears that prolonged exposure to Rizian bioluminescence has triggered some form of genetic adaptation," Dr. Reyes explained, her voice tight with concern. "We're seeing increased sensitivity to light and sound, and these physical changes, we've never encountered anything like this before." News of the mutations spread like wildfire, fueling fear and anti-alien sentiment. The Earth government, under immense public pressure, implemented strict quarantine measures around the compound. Arthur found himself fighting on multiple fronts, reassuring the public, calming the participants, and maintaining diplomatic relations with both the Rizians and the Zorn. The situation reached a boiling point when Grand Counselor Talon arrived on Earth, his feathers pulsing with barely suppressed agitation. "This program must be terminated," he declared, his eyes fixed on Arthur. "We cannot risk further physiological changes to either species." Arthur felt the weight of countless lives and the future of interspecies relations on his shoulders. In a moment of clarity, he made a decision that would alter the course of events. "No," he said firmly, meeting Talon's gaze. "We will not terminate the program. Instead, we'll expand our research. With the Zorn's medical knowledge, we can understand and potentially control these adaptations." As Arthur outlined his plan to Grand Counselor Talon and Ambassador Zix, alarms blared throughout the compound. General Steele's voice crackled over the comm system. "We have a breach. Hostile forces are attempting to infiltrate the facility." Arthur rushed to the security center, watching in horror as a group of human supremacists fought their way past the outer defenses. On the monitors, he saw James and Lyra rallying the human and Rizian participants, organizing a defense of their home. In that moment, as humans and Rizians stood side by side to protect each other, Arthur knew that despite the challenges ahead, they had already achieved something remarkable. The future of Earth's place in the galaxy hung in the balance, but the bonds forged in the compound offered a glimmer of hope for a truly integrated galactic community. The attack on the compound had been repelled, but Arthur knew this was only the beginning of a new chapter in Earth's history. As the dust settled, Dr. Elena Reyes approached Arthur with a look of excitement on her face. "Mr. Freeman, you need to see this," she said, leading him to the research lab. Inside, a team of human and Zorn scientists huddled around holographic displays, their faces illuminated by the soft blue glow of data streams. Dr. Reyes pointed to a complex genetic map rotating in the center of the room. "We've made a breakthrough," she explained, her voice hushed with awe. "The changes we're seeing in James and the other human participants aren't random mutations. They're the result of dormant genes being activated by prolonged exposure to Rizian bioluminescence." Arthur's mind raced with the implications. "Are you saying these changes were already part of us?" A Zorn scientist, his silver skin shimmering under the lab lights, stepped forward. "Precisely, Mr. Freeman. Your species possesses a remarkable genetic plasticity we've never encountered before. When exposed to certain alien stimuli, these genes activate, allowing for rapid physiological adaptation." The lab buzzed with activity as scientists from 3 species worked in tandem, unraveling the mysteries of human DNA. Arthur watched as James underwent another series of tests, his skin now unmistakably iridescent under certain light conditions. "How do you feel, James?" Arthur asked, studying the young man's face for signs of distress. James flexed his hands, a look of wonder in his eyes. "Different, but good. Everything seems clearer, sharper, and I can sense things I couldn't before." As news of the discovery spread, Earth erupted into a global debate. Vid screens across the planet displayed heated arguments between scientists, politicians, and pundits. Arthur found himself at the center of a media storm, fielding calls from world leaders and galactic representatives alike. In a bold move, the Earth government convened an emergency session. Arthur stood before the United Earth Council, the weight of humanity's future heavy on his shoulders. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice steady, "we stand at a crossroads. The discovery of these adaptive genes offers us an unprecedented opportunity. I propose we leverage this breakthrough to enhance our compatibility with various alien species, potentially revolutionizing our place in the galactic community." The council chamber erupted into a cacophony of voices. Some counselors cheered the proposal, while others warned of the dangers of genetic manipulation. As the debate raged, Arthur's comm device buzzed with an incoming transmission. Grand Counselor Talon's holographic form materialized before him. "Mr. Freeman," the Rizian leader said, his feathers pulsing with an intense blue light, "I've been briefed on your scientist's discovery. While I initially had reservations, I now see the potential benefits for both our species. I propose a joint research initiative between Rizian, human, and Zorn scientists to explore these genetic adaptations further." Arthur felt a surge of hope. "Grand Counselor, your support means more than you know. Together we can forge a new path for interspecies relations." As plans for the joint research initiative took shape, James and Lyra found themselves at the center of a scientific maelstrom. Their unique status as the first human-Rizian couple made them invaluable to the study of interspecies compatibility. One evening, Arthur found the couple in the compound's arboretum, surrounded by a mix of Earth and Rizian flora. Lyra's feathers shimmered with a soft, comforting glow as she held James's hand. "How are you both holding up?" Arthur asked, noting the fatigue in their eyes. James sighed, running a hand through his hair. "It's intense. The constant tests, the scrutiny. Sometimes it feels like we're more lab specimens than people." Lyra nodded, her alien features etched with concern. "We understand the importance of the research, but the pressure is immense. We worry about what it means for our future together." Arthur felt a pang of guilt. "I'm sorry you're bearing so much of this burden. Your courage is helping shape the future of both our species. If there's anything I can do to make this easier for you, please let me know." Before they could respond, a commotion erupted outside the arboretum. General Steele's voice crackled over the compound's comm system. "Freeman, we've got a situation. The Galactic Council has called for an emergency summit here on Earth." Arthur's pulse quickened. Earth hosting a Galactic Council summit was unprecedented. As he rushed to the command center, he saw a flurry of activity throughout the compound. Human and alien staff worked side by side, preparing for the influx of galactic representatives. In the following days, ships from across the galaxy descended on Earth. The planet became a hub of interstellar diplomacy, with delegates from dozens of alien races converging to discuss the implications of the human genetic discoveries. As Arthur coordinated with global leaders to prepare for the summit, reports of growing unrest reached his desk. A group calling themselves the Pure Earth Movement had begun staging increasingly violent protests against alien presence on Earth. "We need to increase security," General Steele growled, reviewing the latest intelligence reports. "These extremists see the genetic adaptations as a threat to human purity. They're planning something big. I can feel it." Arthur nodded grimly. "Work with our alien allies. Combine our technology with their defensive systems. We can't let anything disrupt this summit." As the day of the summit's opening ceremony approached, tension hung heavy in the air. Arthur stood at the window of his office, watching as the first delegates arrived at the heavily fortified conference center. In the distance, he could see the gathering crowds of protesters, their angry chants carried on the wind. He turned to face General Steele and a mixed team of human and alien security experts. "This is it," he said, his voice firm with purpose. "Everything we've worked for comes down to the next few days. Let's show the galaxy what humanity is truly capable of." As Arthur left to greet the arriving delegates, he couldn't shake the feeling that Earth stood on the precipice of a new era. The choices made in the coming days would shape not just humanity's future, but the very fabric of galactic society. The true test of their progress was about to begin. The true test of their progress was about to unfold before the eyes of the galaxy. As the summit proceeded, Arthur found himself at the center of a whirlwind of activity. The once ridiculed diplomat who had inherited 3 ugly Rysian princesses was now hailed as a visionary who helped usher in a new era of interstellar cooperation. His days blurred into a frenetic mix of negotiations, presentations, and diplomatic meetings. Months passed, and Earth's integration into the galactic community accelerated at an unprecedented pace. The genetic breakthroughs, combined with the successful cultural exchange programs, paved the way for Earth's formal induction into the Galactic Council. On the day of the induction ceremony, representatives from across the galaxy gathered in a massive, specially constructed amphitheater that blended architectural styles from various alien cultures. The structure itself was a testament to the new era of cooperation, with its sweeping arches reminiscent of Rysian design, crystalline pillars inspired by Zorn architecture, and distinctly human elements woven throughout. Arthur took his place on the stage, his heart pounding with a mix of excitement and nervous energy. He was joined by an unlikely group, the 3 Rysian princesses, Zara, Lyra, and Vela, along with James Carter, whose skin now bore a subtle iridescence, a living symbol of the genetic adaptations that had captured the galaxy's attention. The ceremony began with a series of speeches from Galactic Council members. Each speaker highlighted the unprecedented nature of Earth's rapid integration into the galactic community. Arthur listened intently, still amazed at how far they had come in such a short time. When it was his turn to speak, Arthur stepped forward, his gaze sweeping across the diverse audience. He recounted the journey from that first laughable moment in the Galactic Council chambers to the present day. "We stand here today," Arthur said, his voice clear and strong, "not as separate species, but as a united galactic community. Our journey began with laughter at the idea that humans and Rysians could find common ground. But that laughter has transformed into something far more powerful, hope for a shared future among the stars." As Arthur concluded his speech, a hush fell over the amphitheater. Grand Counselor Talon stepped forward, his feathers shimmering with an intensity Arthur had never seen before. The Rysian leader's eyes gleamed with what Arthur could only describe as pride. In recognition of the unique bond forged between humans and Rysians, Talon announced, his voice carrying to every corner of the vast space, "I hereby declare that the 3 princesses of Rysia, Zara, Lyra, and Vela, will be given special ambassadorial status. They will officially represent both Rysia and Earth in future galactic affairs." The announcement was met with thunderous applause, a wave of sound that washed over Arthur and the princesses. But before the applause could die down, the ceremony took an unexpected turn. Vela, the youngest princess, suddenly spread her wings and launched into the air. Her iridescent feathers caught the light, creating a dazzling display of color and movement. Within seconds, Zara and Lyra joined their sister, their wings beating in perfect synchronization. The three Rizian princesses began an intricate aerial dance, their feathers shimmering in complex patterns that told the story of their journey with humanity. The audience watched in awe as the princesses wove through the air, their movements fluid and graceful. Not to be outdone, James Carter activated his newly developed bioluminescent abilities. With a look of purpose on his face, he pushed off from the stage and joined the princesses in the air. His flight was less graceful, but no less impressive, showcasing the successful melding of human and Rizian physiologies. The impromptu performance captivated the audience. Aliens of all species watched in rapt attention as humans and Rizians danced together in the air, a living symbol of the harmonious blend of different species and cultures. As the aerial display reached its crescendo, Arthur suddenly felt his feet leave the ground. An anti-gravity field lifted him into the air, bringing him face to face with a being of pure energy, the Galactic Council's supreme arbiter, a figure who rarely interacted directly with corporeal species. Arthur Freeman, the arbiter's voice resonated in Arthur's mind. You have guided your species with wisdom and compassion. Your actions have not only brought humanity into the galactic fold, but have also strengthened the bonds between all our peoples. The arbiter extended a tendril of energy, and a small, glowing orb materialized before Arthur. Accept this gift, the arbiter continued. It is a symbol of Earth's new status and a key to accessing the vast knowledge banks of the Galactic Council. Use it wisely for the benefit of all species. Arthur reached out and grasped the orb, feeling a surge of energy course through his body. As he was gently lowered back to the stage, the amphitheater erupted in cheers and applause. With the ceremony complete, Arthur found a moment of respite amidst the celebration. He gathered with his unlikely family, the Rizian princesses, James, and even Nyx, in a quiet corner of the amphitheater. Can you believe how far we've come? James asked, his skin still glowing faintly from his aerial performance. Zara, her feathers ruffling slightly, spoke for her sisters. Arthur, we want to thank you. You saw beyond our supposed ugliness and recognized our true worth. You gave us a chance when others would not. Arthur smiled, feeling a warmth spread through his chest. He reached into his pocket and produced 3 small boxes. I have something for each of you, he said, presenting the boxes to the princesses. Inside each box was a piece of jewelry, crafted on Earth but designed to complement the unique feather patterns of each princess. The gifts symbolized the unbreakable bond between Earth and Rizia, and the new family that had been forged through their shared experiences. As the princesses admired their gifts, Arthur looked out over the celebrating crowd of humans and aliens. The laughter that had once echoed in the council chambers had indeed been transformed into applause. The ugly daughters he had inherited had become the beautiful bridge between worlds, and humanity's place in the stars was now secure. Arthur turned back to his group, his heart full. Shall we? He asked, gesturing towards the celebration. Together, Arthur, the princesses, James, and Nyx joined hands and wings as they stepped forward to greet the new era of galactic cooperation. The symphony of diverse voices that filled the air was a testament to their shared hope for the future. As they moved through the crowd, Arthur clutched the glowing orb in his free hand, its warm light a reminder of the challenges and opportunities that lay ahead. The galaxy had opened its arms to humanity, and Arthur knew that their journey among the stars was only just beginning.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.